What's up guys, Joe with JS Bladecraft coming to you with this modern katana rendition from Dragon King. It is a modern katana and it's actually physically called Modern Katana. Now Dragon King is a company that I've been curious about for a very long time. They're making some really quality products, but still giving you the passed down heritage and the quality that you would expect from a katana recreation these days. And they're moderately priced. In terms of what Cas Iberia sells, Dragon King is probably one of the most well-rounded in terms of quality and price. Dragon King is definitely a great option in terms of brands that Cas Iberia sells. Now, this particular sword was given to me as a sample from Cas Iberia for me to give it a shot. I was pleasantly surprised when I saw it on their website the first time. And when I first, you'll see my video, one of my first impressions. When I first took this thing out of the box, I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, in terms of basically the quality of this thing. Now, what I love, I haven't been this excited about a katana as this one for a very long time. Not to say that moving away from traditional katana in terms of the tsukamaki and the specific types of fittings and the fact that it could be taken apart and there's different craftsmen that do different things, yada yada yada. I forever will be respecting the time-honored tradition of how katana are made in terms of the craftsmanship, the details, the artistic element of it. I'll always respect it. But we are here in 2023 and we're looking at basically renditions of katana that are changing. This definitely changes the game here. Certain knife companies are making Bowie knives and certain type of folders and things like that, fixed blades, more tactical, more unibodied construction, different types of materials. They're taking a break from solid wood and they're going with G10 and micarta, just things that don't expand, just things that they're taking advantage of the technology that we have today, giving you some items that basically will stand the test of time, the test of usage a lot more than older technologies were. And that's what's happening with knives. And I think it's now happening with katana. This is definitely a prime example of a tactical style type of katana. Now, what I love about this thing, guys, when this thing is in its saya, it's just like a unibody construction. It's like one unibody construction. I have never seen any type of katana held like this or rendition of a katana that had such a great fit and finish, solid construction. It's solid state. It's like a solid state construction. In terms of the handle, the way it fits, there's no rattle. The scabbard, rather, the saya was definitely made for the blade. It fits so incredibly perfectly like a glove, almost like a tactical type of a real good tactical knife, which is inside its sheath. The paracord, everything about it just screams modern, screams tactical. You know, and it has a real habaki. You basically thumb push, you slide it out, it comes out so easily. I mean, it's just so well thought out. I am very impressed with how they the construction of it and how they made it is really fantastic. If you're a practitioner and you're looking for something to practice with, I mean, this thing being about 2 pounds is light as a feather, incredible fit and finish, very easy to basically unsheath and sheath again. Doesn't come out of it's just such a great fit to this thing that I think a practitioner would fall in love with practicing with this thing. If you want to practice with a live blade, this is definitely something I would definitely recommend to you because you're going to love the way this thing fits in your obi, the way you can use it, the way you can do noto with it. You're going to realize how much you've been missing this type of sword to be practicing with. I don't know how it's going to stand the test of time, but right now this is a noto dream. The tightness of the suka without having to deal with maybe loose ito on certain models, having a loose kashira or loose or maybe edges that hit you. This is perfectly smooth, perfectly comfortable in the hand, so it makes it even more comfortable. Besides having that really grippy, nice G10, it's like holding one of your favorite Bowie knives with G10. That's what it feels like, but in a sword. I mean, it's really that good. And you know what? This might be my favorite swinging freaking katana. I gotta say, this feels awesome. You have to think about it in terms of a tactical, a really good Bowie knife these days, but in a katana form. That's exactly what this is. It feels that great, feels that solid in your hand, like a solid construction, because this doesn't come apart. So this is a modern katana made by Dragon King. Now, Dragon King as a company produced Dalian, China. Frenchy Jin is the head leader with his group of artisans. As said on their website, they produce high quality, desirable swords that have a blend of art, symbolism, and heritage without sacrificing their original intent. This particular sword is a 27-inch 1566 steel Nagasa or blade. 1566 spring steel is a high carbon and manganese spring steel used by Hanwei in many of their differentially hardened swords. This deep hardened steel provides a consistent microstructure, ensuring long life and excellent edge holding. So if it's anything like the Hanwei type of swords, which I think Dragon King and Hanwei, they're kind of sister companies and they use a lot of the same materials. But if it's anything like the Practical Excel or the Practical line in terms of some of the Hanwei steels, I mean, I can expect it to be a very durable, very elastic type of steel. It's carbon, manganese, and it's a spring steel. It's a pretty nice combination and good hedge holding. It definitely has good hedge holding. I can definitely test that to see how my Practical Excel is keeping its edge for such a long time through so many hard cuts. The steel is differentially tempered with a real clay tempered hormone. Now, I don't know what the difference between differentially tempered and differentially hardened. I think differentially tempered probably is a little bit of a different process in terms of having the same body of steel and hardening it in different ways in terms of the Ha and the spine, because the actual Ha, it has an HRC of 60 and the Mune has an HRC of about 40. So it gives you a great edge retention and has some give in terms of its spring steel type of characteristics. 5/8 of an inch it has 5/8 of an inch in Sori, which is pretty acceptable. It's got an 11¼ inch Suka, which is really good for me. And the Suka encapsulates the said full tang in a textured G10 material that is solid state and unremovable, double pinned. It's got a silver lion dog Manuki on the finger side, which is awesome. The saya is a textured black Hishime or eggshell saya. It seems like it has a wood core and a combination of a wood core and polymer or a type of plexiglass, but it definitely is a very tactical style type of saya. The polymer is on the Kuragata, the knob, the Korjiri, and I believe the Koiguchi has a polymer cap, which is obviously great because it protects your hands. And I love the fact that it's got a green paracord Sageo. That kind of just screams tactical and modern in terms of that Sageo being paracord. So the weight listed is at about 1 pound, 14 ounces. I weighed mine personally at about a hair over 2 ounces, a hair over 2 pounds. So it's kind of it's pretty much close. I mean, in terms of, it's not much discrepancy between what they advertise and what the sword I have in my hand at. So I would say it's about 2 pounds even. The thickness of the spine is about 7 millimeters at the guard, and it's about 4.8 millimeters at the tip with a nice distal taper. And it's got a really traditional Hirazukuri or geometric. Hirazukuri, if you guys know anything about it, one of the best cutting geometrics out there along with Unokubi Zukuri, because it's got a flat plane. No shinogi, no gyokote. It's got a flat V-shaped right to the edge, right to the point, okay, with no obstruction, so it should really slide right through all of your targets. The only problem with Hirazukuri is it is prone to taking a set, but given that the steel is a little bit more of a spring steel characteristic, I'm hoping it holds up to everything that I'm going to be cutting with it. Right now, the best deal on this sword I found is on Cult of Athena. It's priced at around $348. Compared to Cas Iberia at $399, but look into that because I believe Cas Iberia does offer some free ground shipping, whereas Cult of Athena does not. So you may get a little bit of a better deal or around the same deal pretty much wherever you go, depending on the shipping to where you are. Quick update, guys. SBG Sword Store, Dragon King Modern Katana, is actually the cheapest there at $287.95. It's definitely probably the best deal on the internet right now, so keep that noted. So look into that to see where you're going to get the best deal. Now, besides this being a modern iteration of a katana, this is actually a very good performing katana. Now, the only issue I had with this katana, which is not really an issue with the sword itself, is more of a personal thing. This is a very light and nimble sword. So I found that I'm not used to cutting with such a light sword. I'm used to cutting with a lot heavier cutters, or not a lot heavier cutters, but for the most part, I noticed that like this hit right here, I'm misdirecting the cuts because I'm putting a little bit too much muscle into the swings. And when you do that, obviously you're misdirecting the cuts. But for the most part, the sword has excellent control. Great slicing capabilities. It really did a nice job. And with some practice, take a look at that slice. That's definitely an edge killer, you know, on a normal sword. But I really didn't see any damage on the sword whatsoever. But like I said, with some practice with this sword being a light sword, and there's another hit, again, no damage. I just wanted to kind of show you these hits to show you where I was misdirecting the cuts and how there was no damage to the edge. It was no rolling, no chips or anything like that. But it did a great job in slicing up these bottles. You see later on in the shoot, I was able to kind of direct the cuts a little bit closer as you practice with the sword and you get used to the dimensions of the sword, the lightness of it, the point of balance and all that. Once you do that, this sword is just going to really sing in your hands completely. I mean, there is the carnage right there at the end, all the different cuts that I did. Really good job. Now this is a hard cardboard carpet roller. I mean, obviously carpets are rolled around this cardboard, and I like to use this as, you know, it's a cheap cutting format, and it's definitely a good challenge for the sword. Now I did wet this, so it's not as like hitting a brick wall or anything like that, but you definitely need to have some good accurate swings and a good cutting sword in order to get through this material pretty well, and I was pretty happy with the way this performed. Obviously this is more geared towards a heavier cutting sword, but this did a really nice job. And as I was using the sword more and more throughout the shoot, and this is probably my second go at it with this sword, it really, you know, you get used to it and it feels really good. So I gotta say, this is pretty much one of the best cutting swords, the best handling swords I have ever held, especially when I got used to lightness. What can I say, guys? I really like this sword. There's so much to like about it. Most importantly is just the whole solid state feel of it. It's like a solid state type of sword in terms of the handle, in terms of the saya, in terms of how it fits and how it hugs the blade. The last sword that I cut with was a very heavier sword, more of a heavier use type of sword. So coming from that and going to this, I kind of felt like I had too much strength. I put too much strength into the cuts and I was kind of misdirecting it. But believe me, this has a lot of control. Once you get a hang of it and get used to swinging with it, you have total control of the tip. It's a very light and nimble, good trick cutter and very tight in the hand. At this point, I did 2 cutting sessions with it, one being tatami and one being the bottles and the hard cardboard rolls, the carpet rolls. And there's no wiggle and rattle, there's nothing. Being basically sheathing it and unsheathing it a couple of times. Now, what I also showed you in the video, if I didn't show you already, is the fact that it did not take any sets whatsoever, even with the hitting the cutting stand, which I think you'll see the B-roll. I hit the cutting stand twice because I was kind of muscling the cut too much because, like I said, I'm not used to swinging with a very light and nimble sword, so I was kind of over swinging it too much, and I hit into the cutting stand twice. And there was no damage or edge roll or anything like that. It did not take a set whatsoever, absolutely no bends, no rolls or no chips on the blade. And being also a Hirazukuri, which is prone to that, it did no damage. So I'm really happy with the type of spring steel, the manganese, the carbon, whatever concoction they put together with this 1566 really worked well on even harder targets. Big fan of this modern katana. Big fan of the Koiguchi, the fit, everything about it. It's just a great sword. I'm actually pretty damn excited about it. Pretty damn excited as far as where the future is going with these types of next rendition or next wave of katana being more tactical. As long as it's not a futuristic type of sword or an anime or something that resembles a katana, then I'm pretty good with where the market is going with it. Of course, I love traditional, but this, you cannot argue with these new materials that they put into these swords, how it is kind of like a new wave type of samurai type of sword. Dragon King did a great job with this modern rendition of the katana. Big fan of it. It handled all the materials I threw at it really well, and it still stayed fit and finish is still fantastic. The blade did amazingly in terms of cutting through materials. You'll see a lot more of this sword coming to you, but thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. This is Joe from JS Bladecraft. Until the next sword or knife review, appreciate your support and you watching my videos. Have a good one, guys, and I'll see you when I see you. Ciao.